Hey everybody, welcome to USA Wrestling's Moments Off the Mat. My name's Mike Clayton. I'm your National Coaches Education Manager, and today we're getting ready for challenge block call number 8. So Zach Arrett from USWOA, let's knock it out.
Hey, so thanks, Mike. Today is going to be a little similar to what we did last week in terms of just looking at a mixture of situations. Now, not all of these came from one particular match like last week, but this week will just be a series of different situations that we'll take a look at. Some of them towards the end are going to be important where it's the order matters. So it's a longer clip. So you might want, if you have something you can jot down like as it's score, so you can put it in order based on that. So it'll be kind of a multiple scoring situation because they're pretty complicated and these things turned into challenges. And then as you work through the challenges, you have to keep track of all the scores as they go through. So certainly that'll be helpful as we go through. I'm going to share my screen here. I did put the style beside the question because they'll change. So 4 points red.
Oh.
All right, let's start with somebody that scored 4 red. Why did you score 4 red for the 2?
I didn't score 4 red, but I don't know. It went to his knees, off his knees, and then I didn't feel like he exposed until after he touched his hand out of bounds, putting him out of bounds and a leg out of bounds, and then went to his back. But I can see why it's 4 as well. So I'm not. To me, it was just a 50-50 choice, and I chose wrong.
I scored 4 red, mostly because I watched it really hard, and his elbow did tap down right. Well, not quite, but his elbow did tap down just briefly right there, and that's what I saw and went with 4 red.
Mm-hmm.
It's a good call. I didn't see that. Yeah, I just simply went to takedown. So.
Yeah, it's one of those situations here where it's really close, and if you don't go back and you kind of go frame by frame, looking at the review and the process, it's hard to catch that elbow hitting in this process. So really gets to the question here. So for example, if red scores, even if you score red 2 points here, the score is 10-9, would red challenge this action?
No.
I wouldn't.
No, I wouldn't either. With 4, good call. Yeah, with 4.8 seconds, there's no real good reason to challenge us. They scored 4. Now, what my guess is in this situation, blue challenged it, hoping that maybe they could get it to 1. And if they get it to 1, potentially maybe they're winning because of criteria. But even if this was scored 2 red after review, this is going to get switched to 4 red because they can kind of go frame by frame. And I like Zach's explanation too about how he went out of bounds first, his hands hit, and then he went to elbow. So I thought that was a great explanation for that. So, but I would score this 4 because it was more or less a continuous movement down, hands, and then directly to the elbow in the process. So. All right, next, Greco.
I didn't wait for the whole clip to go through. I'm wrong.
I didn't either. I thought it was over.
It probably should have been over because I think I was just doing the first action, not the last one. So I don't think there's a right answer on here, to be honest with you guys.
There never is.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
I must have slow internet to keep spinning.
Oh, I got it right. Oh, so it didn't. You didn't. Oh, sweet. Okay.
Yeah, I didn't cut it at the right spot because I was only going to cut it after
Okay.
the first when he came back down on top. So, and I'm letting it go a little bit further. So there's a better correct answer than that one. But the first question is does blue get any points here?
I don't think so. I don't think he ever establishes control at any point. And then they go to their feet. Red returns. Now they're neutral. They go back to parterre. That's 2 red. But this is where I thought it was. If the action keeps going, then I think it's 1 blue afterwards for sure.
Correct.
There you go. That's 1. Yeah.
Yeah. That's correct. So the first part here really is this first action here. And I really was just doing this action and then back to the takedown. So I didn't stop the video at the right time with this. But that's the question right there. Does blue get the reversal for 1? Which in this case, as Zach stated here, he never really got control, never really got behind his hips in that process. And so it was really kind of a scramble, kind of Red did a good job of coming up. And then they come back up to a standing position. And as soon as they came back up to a standing position and blue was facing him a little bit, as soon as they go back down, that's going to be 2 points again for a takedown. And then in that situation, the end would have been 1 blue. So 2 red was the original part there.
Just for fun, where is the exact 2 red happen again?
It's a takedown because they came back up to their feet.
Okay.
Yeah, so when they got back up to their feet here, so they come back from like right here as they go, like here, they get back up to their feet. They're wrestling. They kind of came back to a somewhat of a neutral position and scramble, came back to their feet. He locked him around the waist again and then took him back down. And it wouldn't be considered a risk because he already had the body lock before he tried that headlock.
Yeah.
And there's no place in there you would have considered a slip on the first gut, Zach?
No, probably not in that situation because I thought that he did a pretty good job of stepping over, kind of actually creating this situation because he goes here. Red does all right, but then blue kicks over and is, I think, doing a pretty good job of trying to counter, but doesn't really get to it. So I don't think I would stop it. I would just let that action continue to wrestle through that. So that's a good question now.
I have a question. Maybe this is silly because I don't fully. So if there was no loss of control at all, you can then score another takedown?
Basically, yes, because it's not really I would say there was a loss of control. I mean, if you're looking from a control standpoint.
Yeah, if there's a loss of control, though, then that other person earned the control, which might have made that blue got a reversal or like right? Like if red lost control and blue, you know what I'm saying? Like, so if red never lost control, then he can now earn another takedown, even though he never lost control in parterre, technically.
Okay, so I'll fire that one off for you, Eric. In Greco, I know it's a little finicky, but there's no such things as control, right? You have exposure, right? So think in terms of exposure, right? You get back to your feet. Feet is no more ground wrestling. Now you're back up. There is no control necessarily. It's exposure. So blue tried to expose by stepping over, lost control. Well, I shouldn't say lost control. Lost his attempt at exposure, okay? Lost his attempt to try to get the reversal because, again, reversal is another control word, right? But there is no control, right? There is just wrestling. So if you look at it as everything in exposure, they were on the ground, they went back to their feet. Red took him back down to the mat for a takedown. Don't think of it as control. It's a really random or a really unique way to look at it, but it's the best way to look at it. Don't use the word control in any thought process, in my opinion.
I think the one thing we get caught up with, and I was never in favor of this when they changed, because they made takedowns like tougher and said you have to have control. But if you looked before that happened a few years ago, there was nowhere in the rule book talked about control. Everything about scoring points in freestyle and Greco is about meeting criteria. If you meet this criteria, you get the points. So before, like when you would make a leg attack, if you hit 2 knees and a hand at any point, they scored it as a takedown. But they were given 1. But then when it became 2, the people who were making the rules wanted it to be a little bit more concrete. So they kind of added the word control only into that takedown aspect. But as soon as you come to your feet and you go and you square up and face it anyway, even if they still have a lock and you go back down, you're going to give up 2 points here. This is what's different between that and folk style. I would never encourage anybody to ever come to their feet unless they were just trying to get away because there was a short amount of time. Because if you come to your feet, you square up and you start wrestling and go right back down and never really got out of a bad position, there's a good chance you're still going to score 2 points because it's now it's standing, and now it's standing back down into 3 points of contact. So that's going to be considered a takedown again. So it's one of those loopholes. That's kind of why I threw this in here. So because a lot of times we expect it from a folk style perspective, we always think that this is not points because he never really escaped. So how could he get a takedown? And that's kind of how that mentality is a little bit different between folk style and freestyle, which is why I added this video.
Yeah, blown.
Yeah.
So when blue stepped inside of red's legs, is that what you considered squaring up?
Yeah, I mean, as soon as he got to this point, I guess my part here is like this got back to like a scramble position. Would you agree with that? Like when they got to here, like this was just at any time, like right from here on out, like this was just wrestling.
Yep.
Yes,
so
for
now
sure.
Yep. Anybody's game at this point. And now it kind of came back up to it. They were a neutral position to both guys, and he just ended up with a great body lock and took him back down for that. It's a little different than a lift. Like if I lift you and I'm in control with that lift and I elevate you up and I rotate you, but then I just take you back down, I'm not going to get 2 for that because I was one in that. But here, because he kind of like, it was a scramble situation and they both came back up to their feet, square back up and went back down. That's when you're looking at scoring that additional 2.
Okay.
All right, Greco again. See if I got this one cut right and scored right. In case you're wondering, these are all under my complicated scoring situations file.
Man.
Wow.
It's got to pick. Go.
I picked. Oh man, that was a tough one.
I just threw something out there. I don't know.
Why that's incorrect? I was sure I picked that right.
Yeah.
I picked yellow. I don't know if I hit it wrong.
All right. So first part, this first action, that's what we want to look at, the very first action. He gets the lift. So red's in control here. Red lifts him, and then blue begins to take it away.
Yep.
And that's a question of whether that's a 2 points or 4 points for blue.
Right.
But I definitely think that blue scores here.
Okay, so I do have a question. When
Sure.
did red ever stop throwing? Like, I didn't think that I would have called that a slip.
Me too.
Or way before I'd have scored that anything for blue because red kept going.
Sure. That's a great
okay.
point. Yeah, no, I think it's a valid point. I think when I looked at this, I watched blue kick his legs over, and then I see like a different direction, like rotate down. So to me, there looks like there's a little movement to the side, which caused him to go down. And then as he hit, then he continued over. But because I go right here, and I just feel like there was a little bit of like a shoulder rotating them down at that point. But I certainly can see your point.
Yeah, I was looking for a score that wasn't on your choices.
Yeah, me too. I really was too.
I just took it. Yeah, I don't.
So that's the 4 blue. What are you counting as the 1 red?
So
Out of
I
bounds.
scored that as 2 for the counter and parterre.
Mhm.
So like he was already going down, and he didn't really he took it away as he was hitting the mat. So I scored it as 2 blue for the counter, the first one, and then this action. It's difficult to see, and it's better to show another angle. But I can tell you right now that right foot, that his Red's right foot is out of bounds right now. So, and this is where those extra, like you can actually see up here, just underneath the scoring is where the scoreboard, where the score's showing. That's where the second camera's at. So that second camera's got a pretty good view of that particular
Yep.
situation.
So you called him out there, even though, yeah, I did. Oh, you can see that, but
You can see it a little better here.
Yep.
the action hadn't started inbounds.
The action
He's
did-
only. Yeah.
Go ahead,
Sorry.
Zach. No, go ahead, Zach.
I was gonna
You got
say
it.
blue is attempting to throw. The action is in bounds. Red doesn't stop him until he steps out of bounds. I think
Mhm.
that's what you're saying, correct? Okay. Yeah.
Correct.
I see
Yeah.
that. I see it.
We had that a couple weeks ago, I believe, with some situations where actually I did it with the Greco national team. Very similar situations where anytime you see that action where it gets a person, especially happens in Greco a lot because there's a lift and then a throw out of bounds, and you see that throw out of bounds where that foot steps by the defense wrestler, steps out of bounds first, and then covers the person because they don't finish. But that initial step out of bounds is going to be considered a step out. So when they review it, that's going to be this is a good challenge at any time. If you're
Mhm.
making a throw going out of bounds from a, and it's a standing position throw and you end up on your back, but there's a chance that person went out first, that's worth the challenge. Because if they went out first before they countered, then it's going to be 1 point for the out of bounds and not 2 points for the counter. Now, if you go to your back first, let's say blue went to his back first here, like red was still in bounds, then this is going to be 2 points for red. It's kind of whoever goes out of bounds first is going to be the one that ends up with the score in that situation.
Man, you're killing me, Zach. I better get this one right.
I happened to be watching this match and screaming at the referee to score it right, and he got it right. Because this was a big win. This is a big match for Ildar. This was to qualify. This is the weight. This was a big deal.
Yeah, this was really close. The Greco, Coach Lundland asked me to take a look at this one and wanted me to explain why it was scored, what it was scored, and so we went through it. So somebody that scored one blue, what was your reasoning,
for me,
behind one blue?
So when I'm watching this match, right, I'm thinking, oh my God. Well, the deal is, number one, Red never hit his hip or his chest. Now he did make the attempt to go to the body lock here, but he never takes him to his back, right? Blue moves him out of bounds and makes a throw, gets Red's feet off the mat. I mean, now you can see a sit, and he yanks him off of him. And in my opinion, Blue now takes the throw and throws. And if Red could have held on and stayed with it, I think it would have been Red's points, but he let go. Red let go and went out of bounds. That's why I think it was one blue.
And there's a complete direction change there too. Here, a direction change. Red's not going to jump over there to make that takedown or make that action complete.
Yeah, this is because we had the question came up is how come this wasn't 2? Because they thought when they watched it, this was 2, and Zach made a good point. When he throws him here, notice that he doesn't go
to danger.
He doesn't go to danger, but he doesn't land on his hip or his chest. He lands on his knees, hands and knees. So hands and knees is not good enough for correct hold. So in this case, this just becomes a straight out of bounds situation. That's all it is. So after all this was all said and done, all this was scored as who went out of bounds first. And in this case, it was red. Now, from a coaching perspective with this, like, and Zach made a great point right here. Like, when you watch this, at first time I watched it, I'm thinking, gosh, this might have gone for red, because red initiated the action, attacked him all the way across. But, the key point here is, I think, as he made this throw, is that part right there. He completely lets go of everything in this process. If he'd have held on to anything, like in this process, and kicked his legs, like right now, he's still in good position. Like, he's still good enough. If they hit right here, he's probably going to get 4. This would be like a 4-2 or something along those lines. But at this point, right after this, is when his hands separate, and now he's no longer in control of that action. So it's no longer his move, essentially. So it became Blue's action in that process. If red could have slid his feet to the right and kept his body lock, that's going to be 4 points for blue, or 4 points for red, almost immediately onto his back, and it's bad. So yeah. So 1 point for just out of bounds, out of all that.
I think it'd be interesting to go do this a time with no choices. So for me, I get confused. Like, I look at the other, go, man, that's a great choice too. And I read the next one, I'm like, oh, that's a good choice. And sometimes it'd be nice to look, not just go off instinct, not see the choices, and see what.
Absolutely. I think that's pretty good. I know that one of the things that this game does have is, if you pay for the highest level, which I haven't, you can actually have short answer. You can have people write in their own answer. You can show something and score it. So that could be done that way. It'd be interesting just to see everybody's view of different situations and see how many different options we can come up with. So
The downfall would you see me scoring like 7s, or like something that doesn't exist, and then it'd really show how bad you.
Maybe you're just on the cusp of something new, Danny. Like, we're just, you're so far ahead of everybody that we're trying to play catch up right now.
My big argument's always like, you didn't know that rule change?
Good deal. All right, here we go. Greco again.
I think Coach Jess is hiding the choices, isn't she?
I don't know what to do. One more time.
I can tell you, I looked at this. I did the review for this one. We looked at this a lot.
Oh, gosh. Okay, I guessed on that one for sure.
I hope I guessed right. Dang it. You went with red? Come on.
I did. This is where it went back and forth because there's so much happening in this. Like, it's one person's move, then it's the next person's move, and then it's the next person's move in that process. So somebody that scored 4 red, what did you see?
Was it where his feet were? Like the last one that the feet were in on the way out?
Yeah.
It was so fast. Just looked at it, looked like red. Right before they went out of bounds, it looked like red took control of the position.
Right there.
Mm-hmm.
Right there. He looked like he popped his hips, and he was still in bounds. That's what it looked like. Not slowing it down.
That's a great point. I mean, you're watching, because right now this looks like, when you first watch this, like, you're here, and as they start to go, you're starting to see that. Okay, so here it's Blue's action, and then red puts his foot, and then somehow rotates all the way around and keeps his foot in bounds. So he's still in bounds right here.
Right there, he took it away.
What's that?
Right there, he took it away.
Took it away. And then watch Blue's hands in this process. Right now, his hands are separating right now in this as he goes. And it just gets, and now again, hands separated, and he ends up making this throw, and it's really close right there, of danger, no danger. If not, this is probably going to be 2 points for red. So
Yeah, when I saw blue's hands just go, oh my God, I got to save myself. That's when I switched to red right there.
Yep, absolutely. And it was so close too. We had to watch it because, like, if you did say it was Red's move, you know, you got to look to did he step out before he made this throw? You know, when he planted that foot, there was a lot to look at. So we watched that one from multiple angles and multiple places. And honestly, I'm not even sure if we came up with 4 red at the time. Just trying to come up with the best possible scoring. But after I watched it a few times here, I thought this was 4 red. But this was definitely a challenge situation at the U23s.
So again, what was the original score, and then what was the challenge score?
You know, I honestly, it's a great question. I don't know right offhand. I can't remember what it was scored originally. I just remember when we watched it again and having to watch it multiple times because it was a couple of years ago. And I don't have the clip long enough to see what the score was originally. See if I can find out here. Nah, I cut it before they put the points up, so sorry.
That's right.
Ugh.
Here's the same situation, but a different angle. So this is why I said that it had a different part.
Oh, he did get his foot back in. Oh, wow. So that angle, I would have picked 4 red all day long.
I was debating on which one to show. Because, like, you can't really
Wow.
tell if he goes in danger at all in this angle because it just looks like it's a throw as he goes out. But that's a good look at how you sometimes have to use both angles to try to piece together the best score. And like I said, that the one before this was a better angle because this was the exact camera angle on that last situation we had where that red stepped out of bounds. And you can see here on this side of the angle, it would have been really easy to tell. So you kind of mix and match some of those as well. So. All right, here we go. Freestyle and order matters. And I will tell you, you've got 90 seconds on this one, so it's a longer clip.
Why isn't he pinned?
Going with this answer.
Yes. Good.
All right, very good. So 6 out, that's pretty good. This is a little tougher one. All right,
First now.
what's that?
I got 1 right so far. Am I in first now?
All right, Danny, walk us through. Danny, walk us through.
Right.
What'd you get, buddy?
This might be, well, obviously I was 4 red, feet to back. Held him there a while. I felt like when blue pushed back through, he was forcing red to his back. It wasn't just red, you know, choosing that direction. So 2 exposure there, and then red comes back on top. So another 1.
Yeah, why would red give up that pinning situation without blue making him go there?
Yeah.
Sure, very good. Yeah, he steps back over, he hits that far elbow in that process, that rotating. And then the part here is at 1 red or 2 red. And typically anytime you're still in contact after you score points, if anybody just goes behind at that point, you know, from definitely in a parterre, you just rotate, it's going to get scored as, I guess, for better words, a reversal, but it's really not. Just if there's 2 points scored and you come behind, it's always going to be 1 point for that second action. So, All right, last one. And I think I made this last one worth twice the number of points. So if you can get this one right and other people get it wrong, you can really jump a lot because this is probably the most complicated situation we've had in 8 weeks. And it's Greco situation here. So I think I could have came up with 8 different possible scoring solutions.
Oh, Jesus.
So I had to narrow it down to 4, unfortunately. And you've got 2 minutes on this one, so I'll show it twice. I'll play it again.
I have no idea if I got it right, but I had to guess first. I need double points.
You're doubling down.
Seriously, it's like a double Jeopardy one.
Oh, now I want to take mine back.
Oh my gosh. The suspense is killing me. I'm not going to lie. I need to know.
What the hell?
I'm saying the blue or the green, and then just so I can, if I'm wrong, I'm way wrong. At least I'm one of the two.
I don't know, man. This is it's a good one.
This
At least
one
we know the
definitely
two.
got challenged. Okay.
Yeah, for sure.
Shoot,
Damn
I
it.
did it faster.
Ah, you went 4 blue and 2 blue? No way. Oh.
That's why the order mattered here, because I think the scoring would have came out like if you look at the blue one and the green one, it's the same amount of scores for the same
Right.
people, but just reverse. That's why the order. But that's why I said I actually probably could have came out with 8 different choices on this, because there's places where this could be 2, this could be 4, and then the order, for each one.
Oh.
So
This double points just screwed me. Danny beat me right by 73 points. I cannot believe this. Oh.
How do you already know the point scoring?
Well, it just says right there on the Kahoot. It says you're in 5th place, 73 points behind Danny.
Oh, now I'm screenshotting that. Are you screenshotting? I don't see your name. Yes.
all right.
How did you man, I really wish I could see a different angle here. The only reason I ask, it's the last 2 sets of points. So the first 2 I think are pretty, I get it. But the 4 blue in the middle here, not this one. This because this is red's. Yeah, go ahead.
So that was definitely 4 blue because he was standing.
Yep.
And now we have
2 red.
2 red. And then here's the next one.
This is where we're different. I thought blue only scored 2 here.
Like we start here, he's on a knee, but then he comes up. See if I can.
Yep.
It's hard to.
When you stop it though, he's going to hit a knee before he goes over. That's why I literally watched that. There, see, he touched knee and then went over.
Right.
Yeah, I agree. He definitely hit a knee, but in that process, like he has to hit a knee. There has to be some sort of pause, and then then go to his back. In that case, I thought he went directly. He hit a knee, but was on his way to his back in that process. Fair.
And then I for sure thought he scored 4 at the end here. How'd you only get 2?
This one, it's certainly possible that was 4. This angle's not great, and I'll tell you why I scored 2 from this angle. Is that reason right there?
Oh.
He hits, and then he gets on his feet, and then runs him over at that point. Because he hits here, and then I see, and I can't tell for sure, but the judge is right there, and the judge scored.
Yeah, he says 2
points. So like if I'm a match chairman and I'm looking at this, like I'm just, and I don't have and this is the only camera angle I have to go with that part because he's got the best view of whether he went to his back or not in that process. So here I thought he landed, and then his extra effort dragging him out is why I only scored 2 in that last one. So
yeah, but in freestyle, just because I'm curious, in freestyle that little bit of extra effort can get you the 2-point takedown as opposed to the 1 point. Why not give the extra effort in Greco as well?
I think I don't know that this being a throw out of bounds.
Okay.
I think it's either got to be 2 or 4. There can be. We can't. He either goes to danger, or in this case, doesn't go to danger. It's because you can tell right when they land. At least typically by most camera angles, you can tell right when he lands if that's going to be 2 or 4. And I'm not saying that that's not going to get scored 4. Depending on where people are at situation wise and where this occurs on the edge of the mat. Certainly that I agree with you in the fact that this looked like a good chance to be 4 points, but because it out of bounds and then he had to take an extra effort to get out. I mean, I would certainly give it a shot if I was doing it, to try to get the higher point value and and I would teach kids to do that as well. Like just do it. What's the worst that can happen? Nothing bad happens. You can only get more points out of it, not less. So
This was an
All
awesome
right.
one. These are great situations, Zach. Well done.
Mm.
Yeah, this is.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
This is this is why video has made scoring better.
Yeah, agreed.
Man.
Do you know if there was a challenge? Zach, do you know if there was a challenge? Did Red throw the challenge to go from a 4 to a 2? I don't know if you know that or not.
Yeah, so this got challenged and Red challenged it because no matter how you score this, to some extent, being Greco, the match was over. So
Oh,
Red was going
okay.
to challenge it because no matter whether you score those 2s or 4s, there's still going to be an 8-point differential somewhere in there. So they were challenging it just to hope that something changed
Right.
and they got some points out of it, or it wasn't as bad as they hoped, to try to continue the match. So it got challenged only by Red because the match was over if they didn't. So it was one of those things at the end of the match that they would have challenged. But yeah, if not, I don't know if I would have been able to challenge any of that, no matter how it got scored, because everything was too close and pretty tough to do that. But Blue scored a majority of the points there.
Yeah.
So.
Dang.
Why don't you
Danny,
stick with the double bronze ever? I don't get that.
It's a good question. I'll write Kahoot and find out.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Oh,
Dang,
wow.
Tom with the big win today.
Tom.
Wow, big points.
That
That's-
double.
Wow.
That's the comeback of the century because I got the first 3 wrong.
I noticed.
Congrats.
I'm like, wow, Tom's really down there.
Hey, is that the first time a referee's won this game? I think it is.
I think it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
But Tom was leading in most points scored.
He
Total.
was.
So he's just consistent.
That's all. That's
Consistent. Not always the top, but consistent. I think that's where these get really tough, is when you have to do multiple challenge. When there's multiple things that go on, especially when challenges happen. Going back, and I know sometimes we've had to sit down with a piece of paper and literally score it on paper as it's happening, because you have to go back and review every situation that occurred in that segment. And sometimes it's super, it's not easy and it's confusing. And you can have multiple camera angles. That's always great, but sometimes you don't, and then you're just kind of going with, who had the best view on what they scored in that situation. So, but
those are great examples, Zach.
Yeah, those were fantastic.
Well, thank you guys so much for playing today and for sharing some great information with us. From all of us at USA Wrestling, the U.S. Wrestling Officials Association, and our special guests, Moments Off the Mat. Thanks for joining us, everybody.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.
yes.